Welcome to another Founder Wisdom Pod. We have Stephen Banerjee with us today for round two. He's the founder and CEO at Nextnet. This podcast is presented to you by podfire.com. If you want to start, scale, or be invited to podcasts, we do podcasting the unconventional way. So if you want to get a bunch of guests, get on a bunch of pods, you can go to podfire.com. Stephen, welcome for round two, or to round two, should I say. Can you tell us a bit more about yourself and about Nextnet?
Thanks, Charles. Yeah, it's good to be back. So I founded Nextnet, which is an enterprise software based here in Silicon Valley, and we are targeting the biotech market. And basically, what we are building is marrying a lot of this modern marvels of large language models with big data and biology, and with a lot of cloud infrastructure stack. And basically, our first product is what we call a search and knowledge discovery tool, where let's say your average knowledge worker in the industry, like in biotech or pharmaceutical, can basically just sign up for free and ask and answer all sort of mission critical questions around life science, from understanding disease biology or anybody involved in drug discovery and development. And Nextnet basically pulls concepts, insights from many multimodal, as we call them, multimodal data sets, which extend from tens of millions of scientific literature, patents, to myriads of very complex molecular databases. For example, gene, protein, disease, drug compounds, pathways, pathogens, et cetera, et cetera. We are entering into other modalities as well. So I think that's a key, that's a keyword here, is we're going after multimodal data. And basically, our whole purpose, the goal here is that there is a significant cost of failure in this biotech and pharmaceutical space, where every failed program, every drug candidate that fails costs a biotech enterprise on an average, north of $100 million. So there are multiple reasons for that, but one of the key reasons is basically very expensive human oversight. So one of our goals is that, hey, can we actually help the people that are involved in drug discovery and development, as an example, to be able to really save those kind of costs and be able to better allocate those resources early on in the pipeline. So that's what Nextnet does. And a little bit before, in terms of what I did before, was I founded a pretty successful, now it's coming to this growth stage, biotech enabling company. One of the ways I try to explain to people, it's a company called Mykonos, again based here in the San Francisco Bay Area. And Mykonos is basically developing some pretty groundbreaking chip technology to enable and scale cell and gene therapies. So one way to think of that is like NVIDIA for biology, if you will. But anyway, coming back to Nextnet, our goal here, our vision really is to build a safe, reliable, and friendly AI for biotech.
For this year, what would you have as top priorities vs what you accomplished last year?
Yeah, so we actually ended up signing some key partnerships on the cloud compute side, because we, of course, we actually are fine-tuning models and doing a lot of purpose-built technologies for life science and biotech. So that requires we are very cloud compute hungry. So we signed some partnerships in that domain. Also, we have been engaging with a lot of early adopters. And one of the things that we have seen consistently is in a previous release. So I think a few months ago, we actually released a free version of the platform, which we call as kind of our MVP. We launched another version in November, late November 2023. So that's we call as our autumn release. So basically, we released the platform. We have been communicating a lot with early adopters. We've been seeing pretty steady growth in terms of number of users, but at the end of the day, we are an enterprise software company, kind of this classic Silicon Valley enterprise software with a free version that people can just sign up and start exploring and discovering new knowledge and so forth. So we released, we released some MVPs, signed some key partnerships last year, and we would be continuing on that path this year and really ramping up in terms of we are shipping a bunch of really key features. One of the key differentiators that we really want to differentiate ourselves in this kind of new market is where we want to provide a superior user interface, user experience, something that typical software and biotech really kind of lags behind in comparison to the tech industry as an example. So superior user interface, user experience. So we are making some massive design upgrades of the platform. In the coming weeks, there will be continuing to make those announcements on our social media platforms, and also continue to have some additional partnerships and so forth, and be able to scale our sales motion this year.
How's been funding next year? Did you try to get some, and how's been the landscape generally?
Yeah, so we have been, we have raised some capital, and we are actually getting ready to raise a new round of financing. Of course, 2022, 2023 was kind of a weird year, and I mean, most of our investors really has in Nextnet have come from either they're ultra high net worth individuals, like aka angels, people that have been very successful in their own right. They took a bet on us as we are on the ground floor. We've had a couple of also small funds that actually invested in us. One of them was an early investor, actually in my first company as well. So we are actually getting ready to raise a new round of financing. I'm hearing, the word on the street is that the financing market is getting better. So we'll see how that all plays out.
Your target market, what's your plan to get in touch with them this year and to growth hack your way through interesting results?
Yeah, absolutely. So our target market, so we are seeing that in terms of the free tier subscriber plan, a lot of more than 50% of the users are basically academic researchers and your scientists and researchers from the commercial companies like biotechnology and pharmaceutical companies. We've also seen folks such as senior executives, people involved in other technical operations people involved in technical operations of developing biologics, which are a little bit different than small molecule drugs or like biological drugs, investors, people involved in business development, and so forth. So we are kind of really all across the spectrum in terms of the drug discovery and development within the biotech and the pharmaceutical space. But basically, we have seen a lot of inbound and uptick in terms of inbound requests, and also we are we meet people in conferences and so forth. But so far, what we have seen with some of this, with our MVP release, we have seen a really promising retention numbers of up to 20%, based upon certain user cohorts. So this is like after 3 months of usage, we have seen up to 20%. Of course, different usage cohorts have got different percentage of retention, but that's really promising. That's actually way better than your average industry benchmarks for other marketplace, digital health, productivity apps, and so forth. Again, having said that, we are as an enterprise software, for us, it's really we want to provide kind of frictionless usage to our users before they begin to upgrade. So currently in San Francisco, we've got a big healthcare investor conference happening called the JP Morgan Healthcare Investor Conference. So there's a lot of auxiliary events that are hosted by other biotech pharmaceutical companies, venture funds, and so forth. So you can actually get a lot of leads there. But again, it's a combination of inbound that we have seen significantly uptake in the last few months, combined with some outbound as well on our end. But our retention so far, we haven't really actively pursued in terms of any marketing efforts. So most of our users, early adopters, have been purely word of mouth.
And the paid plan, how much is it?
I would try not to use the specific numbers. We're still figuring out the pricing. So pricing is a product of its own. But we have got a free version. People can just sign up and they can just reach out to us. We are still in the process of trying to operationalize in terms of the pricing tiers.
And what would be the ultimate vision in 10 years from now? Like, where would Nextnet be? Because right now it's mostly a database. Would there be like AI agents making tests for us and finding drugs without too much of our interventions?
So I think, thank you, Charles. I think that's what it's a really interesting question. And I think one thing that people definitely confuse us with is like we are kind of mining for data. We're kind of putting a lot of data together and then making all that available to people. So one thing I would definitely love to clarify here is that we're not a data vendor. We're not a data broker. And we are not, on the other side of the spectrum, we're not an AI drug discovery company. It's kind of a new market where we are basically providing your average knowledge worker in the industry access to all that knowledge that's trapped within all these numerous data silos, which is, so for example, you've got, every year you've got more than 4 million, uh, scientific literature published in a peer-reviewed literature just in life sciences alone and just in the English language alone. You have tens of petabytes of molecular information available to scientists, today. Your average researcher or average scientist, average knowledge worker in the industry would be able to potentially access a fraction of all that information. So what has happened is that there is a tsunami of data as biology, as biomedicine becomes more and more automated, and the ability to analyze and capture insights exponentially lags behind in terms of the information growth. So one of our goals has been to actually extract knowledge, not just the data itself, and then map them onto some custom ontologies, some custom schemas for life science and biomedicine, and have that all organized, integrated, contextualized, cross-referenced into this world's fastest growing knowledge graph that's powering the platform. So it's different from we use a lot of database management systems, but we are not a database. But having said that, I think having said that premise, so that's kind of one of our core mission statement is that we organize and integrate the world's biomedical knowledge and make it accessible. And again, in terms of where we are heading to, is there is definitely a lot of hype around generative AI. Unfortunately, a lot of the generative AI tooling, and I would not name names here, but they're fraught with misinformation, inaccuracies, data security concerns, hallucinations, and so forth. So as I said earlier, our vision is to create a more safe, reliable, friendly AI for biotech. So with that being said, our first product, as we're trying to build this beachhead in this new market, was to release this knowledge discovery tool that anybody can just basically sign up. And
How
particularly for
would
biologists, yeah.
that rank up against Perplexity, which is like an AI chatbot, if you want, more science-based? What do you think about the UX interface, and how would you rank up against Perplexity?
So it's very different. There are tooling out there that are very generic and so forth. We are purpose built for life science and biotech. I think that's important. And where we're heading to is building this more analytic infrastructure, as we call it, where users, an average biotech enterprise who are generating a lot of data internally, experimental data, can actually integrate all of that within the Nextnet stack. So one of the big challenges, one of the big problems in this industry is lack of context. So you're generating a lot of, let's say, for example, a lot of gene expression data, how that all is fits in this massive knowledge base out there. So being able to interface with that external knowledge base and be able to ask and answer mission critical questions around that contextualized information, contextualized data, is key to the success, of biotech pharma companies. And so that's where we're kind of building a lot of those pipelines as well. So our first product is, again, we call it more, it's more of a discovery product than a search. You can perform all the semantic search, you can interact, you can basically ask questions, say, hey, show me the genes involved in colorectal cancer, as an example. And then Nextnet will basically surface you the concepts, insights pulled from millions of data points to these different widgets. We actually call them data viewers. You can perform relational discovery, where you can look at hidden patterns and connections across all these data, across all these data silos. You can do conceptual search where you can look at a list of concepts that are pulled from all these different, sources. And we're adding a bunch of other widgets as well. So yeah, so our first product in this new market as we build a beachhead is this knowledge, this search and knowledge discovery tool. But where we're heading to is more like this full stack end-to-end enterprise software platform where users can bring their private data in a multimodal data and be able to interface with this massive knowledge base and generate hypotheses, insights, industrial scale, and be able to share that with each other, with their peers. So we're building a lot of collaboration tooling and make informed decision. Again, our goal is to help avoid the industry, a lot of the lost opportunity cost, because of expensive oversights.
Right. Well, Stephen, thanks for today. Where can people find out more about you at Nextnet?
Sure, you can just go to our website, getnextnet.com, and and you can just sign up. You can just find that login page there, or you can go to getnextnet.com/discover, and you can just sign up. It'll probably take you a few, maybe 10 to 15 seconds, and yeah, and then you can just start exploring. And again, particularly, this is not a generic tool. This is particularly for life science and biomedicine. So if you are from that industry, please sign up for free and start your knowledge discovery journey right away.